So, let's talk about something that happens in the justice system that a lot of people wonder about, especially when we look at the way things are done in Hawaii. What really happens after someone gets a verdict of not guilty by reason of insanity? It's not what you might think. So, picture this. A verdict is read out loud in court. Not guilty by reason of insanity. For a lot of folks, that sounds like the end of the story, right? But it's actually just the beginning of a very structured, very closely watched journey. So the real question is, what happens now?
The second that verdict is delivered, the court has to make a huge decision. There are basically 3 different paths the person can be sent down. Let's break down what those options are.
Okay, so on one end of the spectrum, you've got commitment to a state hospital. On the complete other end, there's a full discharge. You're free to go. But right there in the middle, you have this third path, and that's what we're going to focus on: conditional release. This is for people who can be managed safely out in the community, but, and this is a big but, with some very strict rules.
So what is conditional release, really? Well, you can think of it like a bridge. It's a bridge between being in a hospital and being fully independent again. It's this very structured, very supervised path that's all about balancing public safety with treatment out in the community. The whole thing hinges on one key idea: that the person gets consistent care, supervision, and treatment. So what's it actually like to be on conditional release? Well, it is all about the rules of the road. And these aren't just suggestions, They are absolute, non-negotiable requirements to stay in the community.
And the law in Hawaii could not be more clear about this. It flat out says treatment and medication are not optional. This is the absolute foundation of the whole system, and if you don't stick to the plan, there are immediate and pretty serious consequences.
So, what happens if somebody breaks the rules? Well, the system is designed to act fast. I mean, really fast. A clinician reports that someone's not complying, and a probation officer can, right then and there, order a 72-hour hold in a hospital. That immediately triggers a court hearing, which could mean staying in the hospital longer or even having the release completely revoked. It's a very clear, step-by-step process designed to put safety first. And it's not just about the treatment plan. There are some hard and fast behavioral rules, too. Things like no new crimes, obviously. No weapons. No harassing people. You've got to follow the rules of where you live, attend all your appointments, and stay away from places that could cause trouble, like bars or drug houses. The court's focus here is all about predictability and safety.
Now, here's the thing. Nobody goes through this alone. A successful conditional release really depends on what you could call a supervision A-team. And there are 2 key players on this team whose jobs are very different but have to work together perfectly. Let's meet them.
Okay, so you've got the probation officer. Think of them as the enforcer. Their job is all about public safety, making sure things are predictable, and enforcing the rules. They're the one with the authority to order that 72-hour hold. Then you've got the case manager. They're the support person, the logistics expert. They're setting up appointments, coordinating all the different care, and even coaching on real-world skills. So one makes sure the rules are followed, and the other helps build the skills needed to follow them. And here's how that whole team structure works. The psychiatrist is the one calling the shots on all the clinical decisions. The case manager is running the day-to-day operations, making sure everything happens. And the probation officer is the leader on everything related to safety and compliance. It's this 3-part approach that provides total support and oversight. Okay, so how do you actually prove to the court that you're ready for less supervision? Well, it's not about just saying, hey, I'm doing better. Nope, it's all about building and following a really concrete plan that the court can look at. First up, there's the risk control plan. And honestly, this is all about self-awareness. It's about figuring out, what are my personal triggers? Things like substance use or not getting enough sleep. And then, what are my protective factors? Things like having a stable home or a good support system. The whole point is to know your own risks and have a plan to manage them before they become a problem. Second, the medication management plan. And let me tell you, the court wants to see cold, hard proof here, not just promises. So the goal is simple: 0 changes to medication that aren't approved. And this gets backed up by objective stuff a court can actually see, like pharmacy logs or checks of a pill box. Third is the illness management plan. This one is huge. It's about empowering the person to become their own first line of defense. They learn how to spot their own early warning signs, and, this is the crucial part, they have a strict rule to report those signs to their team the very same day they pop up.
And we're not talking about just feeling a little off. No, the plan gets super specific about what needs to be reported right away. We're talking about things like not sleeping for 24 hours and feeling more and more agitated, or experiencing command hallucinations, or stopping your meds. Catching and reporting these things early is the proof that the plan is actually working.
So how do you show all this progress to a judge? Something as simple as a log like this can be unbelievably powerful. It's not about having one good day, it's about creating trend data. A long string of check marks shows consistency and stability in a way that just saying, "I'm doing well," never could. All right, so after a long period of proven stability, the final chapter of this journey starts to come into focus, applying for a full, unconditional discharge from all court supervision. Let's dig into how that actually works. So there are basically two ways to kick off that final hearing. First, the state's director of health can file the application. And when that happens, it's a really powerful statement that the state believes the person is ready. Or the patient can apply themselves, but they can't do it alone. They have to have the written support of a qualified doctor or psychologist.
And the stakes for this hearing? They are incredibly high. Just look at this number: 1 year. If the court denies the application, the patient has to wait an entire year before they can even try again. That really shows you how important it is to be absolutely ready before you take that last step.
This brings us to a really critical legal idea, the burden of proof. And in Hawaii, it's a bit different than you might think. The responsibility is on the person applying to prove to the court that they are safe and ready for discharge. The state doesn't have to prove they are still a danger. That is a huge distinction.
So what does it take to meet that burden of proof? I can tell you what it's not. One good month, or even a few good months, is almost never going to be enough. What the court is looking for is sustained stability, documented over a long time. It's that trend data, those consistent check marks, that really matter.
And all of this whole intricate system we've just walked through, it all really boils down to one huge fundamental question. It's a balancing act. So I'll leave you with this to think about. How does a society find the right balance between the absolute need for public safety, the basic right to individual liberty, and the very personal journey of therapeutic recovery?